A scream shatters the frozen night, echoing through Bletsoe Castle's stone corridors, 1457 AD. The wind howls, but it's the cry of a child, 13-year-old Lady Margaret Beaufort, that cuts deeper. Her small body twists on blood-soaked sheets, unprepared for the agony of birthing a king. This isn't a royal fairy tale, it's a descent into truth so brutal, so buried, it's been erased from history. Welcome to the forbidden story of a girl whose suffering birthed a dynasty, a tale of elite ambition, twisted rituals, and horrors that shaped England's throne. You're about to uncover secrets the world hid, knowledge that will haunt you, change you forever. Where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below. We're connected across time, unraveling these ancient truths. If you're ready to face history's darkness, hit like and subscribe. It's your first step into this dangerous journey. Margaret wasn't just a girl. Her veins carried John of Gaunt's blood, a lineage both sacred and cursed in 15th-century England's savage chessboard. At 13, she was a pawn in a game where marriage was a weapon, children currency. Her story begins not in that birthing chamber but with her father's mysterious death. John Beaufort, Duke of Somerset, broken by war, whispers of poison trailing his 1444 AD demise. Suicide or murder, it left Margaret alone, navigating a world where alliances shifted like sand. By 6, betrothed to John de la Pole, she was tied to power. But when John's father was beheaded with a rusty sword, that bond dissolved in blood. At 12, Margaret was married to Edmund Tudor, half-brother to King Henry VI. The ceremony at Bletsoe Castle was no celebration but a contract sealing her to a man in his 20s, seasoned by war. Consummated immediately, it was no union of love but a ritual of dynastic violence. Her body, still a child's, was shattered by trauma she'd never speak of. Within months, her belly swelled, terrifying her young mind. The older women whispered of joy for an heir, fear for a mother so young. Her own mother, hardened by survival, watched with dread. At 12, Margaret faced what killed stronger women. Edmund wouldn't see his child. Captured in 1456 AD at Carmarthen Castle, he died, plague or murder none could say. The chronicles hint at betrayal, his rapid decline suspicious. No physicians were allowed. By November, Margaret, 13, was a widow, pregnant, alone in a world sliding into civil war. Jasper Tudor, Edmund's brother, took her to Pembroke Castle, a fortress on cliffs above crashing Atlantic waves. The journey, in advanced pregnancy, was torture, 5 days of jolting pain on frozen rutted roads. Pembroke's stone walls offered safety, not comfort. Ice-coated windows, wind screamed through cracks. Margaret, barely able to walk, carried a burden her child's body couldn't bear. The castle's physician, Dr. Louis Carlion, studied at Oxford and Paris, but his face grew grave. Her hips were too narrow, the baby poorly positioned. Birth could be fatal. He confided to Jasper, this rarely ended well. They faced impossible choices: turn the baby and risk both lives, wait and risk the child, or attempt a cesarean, almost certainly killing Margaret. Jasper, only 25, bore the weight of her fate. The Tudor line hung by a thread. Margaret, showing unnatural maturity, studied politics and statecraft with Jasper, learning to read faces, decode diplomacy, navigate noble enmities. Her survival demanded it. Margaret's religiosity became her shield, bordering on obsession. Hours in Pembroke's chapel, knees raw, she memorized Latin prayers, studied theology, forging a bond with God to endure her suffering. Some say this fervor was her way to make sense of child marriage and impending motherhood's trauma. Father Meredith, a Cambridge-educated priest, taught her God worked through human action. Prayer alone was empty, but guided action could shift destinies. On that January night in 1457, labor struck like a blade. Walking the battlements for health, Margaret collapsed as pain tore her apart. Midwives, seasoned in countless births, exchanged heavy glances. A child birthing a child, nature pushed past its limits by ambition. They prepared knives, hooks, forceps, relics and herbs, knowing death loomed. Dame Gwen, head midwife, carried 30 years of secrets passed through Welsh women. Her weathered face darkened examining Margaret. The baby was large, wrongly positioned. The chamber filled with lavender and rosemary smoke, calming and strengthening. For 18 hours, Margaret's screams echoed until her voice broke into gasps. Dame Gwen tried every technique. Massage, herbs, whispered encouragement. Jasper paced outside, each cry cutting him. Servants rushed with water and linen. Father Meredith prayed ceaselessly. As dawn neared, Margaret's strength faded. Her pulse weakened, skin paled. Dr. Carlion and Dame Gwen whispered urgently. The baby's heartbeat faltered. Margaret bled internally. They chose manual extraction, a desperate act that might save the child but kill the mother. Dame Gwen prayed to Saint Margaret, positioning the girl carefully. When the baby emerged torn from her shattered body, silence gripped the room. Pale, barely breathing, covered in blood, the infant lay still. Then a thin wail, Henry Tudor, future king, was born. Margaret, half conscious, heard her son's cry through pain's haze, her arms too weak to reach him. Dame Gwen placed the newborn on Margaret's chest for a fleeting moment, a ritual of mother and child, then rushed him to the fire to be cleaned. Margaret's eyes, desperate, memorized his tiny face. Her body was broken, extensive tearing, internal injuries, permanent damage. Dr. Carlian whispered of torn flesh, blood loss nearly fatal. At 13 she'd never bear another child, her reproductive life sacrificed to dynastic greed. Recovery was agonizing. Fevers and infections racked her for weeks. Dr. Carlian used bloodletting, herbal poultices and fortified wines to save her. Dame Gwen spoon-fed broth, never leaving her side. Nightmares plagued Margaret, screams piercing the night. She flinched from touch, her trauma deep. Holding her son triggered memories of his violent birth, love tangled with pain. Yet her spirit held firm. As she healed, Margaret's iron will emerged. She saw her son as the Lancastrian future, a beacon in chaos. The Wars of the Roses erupted, York's white rose against Lancaster's red. Richard, Duke of York, claimed the throne through Edward III's second son, while Lancastrians held it via John of Gaunt. Margaret, tied to Lancaster, faced a losing cause. King Henry VI, weak and possibly mad, faltered. His queen, Margaret of Anjou, capable but despised, couldn't stem the tide. Marriage was Margaret's shield again. In 1458, barely recovered, she wed Sir Henry Stafford, a Yorkist-leaning pragmatist. The quiet ceremony lacked her first wedding's grandeur. Stafford, chosen for political gain, protected her estates and bloodline. It was a business deal, not love, securing safety for her and Henry. Stafford understood her value even if their loyalties clashed. The contract, negotiated by their families, was cold strategy. Margaret, still grieving, faced a stranger in her bed, her convictions buried for survival. The marriage to Stafford was a calculated move, a lifeline in a world unraveling. The Wars of the Roses turned England into a slaughterhouse. Nobles fell, allegiances shattered. Margaret, at 14, navigated this blood-soaked landscape with a child's body and a strategist's mind. Her son, Henry Tudor, was no mere infant but a symbol of Lancastrian hope, a fragile thread tying her to power. Stafford's Yorkist ties offered protection, but trust was scarce. Every smile hid a blade, every promise a potential betrayal. Margaret learned this early: her father's death, poison or despair, teaching her the cost of failure. Her mother, the Dowager Duchess, had drilled survival into her: adapt or die. Margaret adapted, studying her new husband's motives, weighing his words against his actions. Stafford was no fool. He saw her as a key to Beaufort wealth and influence. Their marriage bed was a battlefield of duty, not desire, each encounter a reminder of her body's betrayal at 13. Her permanent injuries ached, a constant echo of Henry's birth. Yet she refused weakness. Jasper Tudor's lessons in politics sharpened her instincts. She read rooms, sensed lies, mapped alliances like a general. Her religious fervor deepened, a fortress against despair. Hours in prayer weren't escape but preparation. Father Meredith's teachings burned in her. Action, not just faith, shaped fate. She fasted, knelt until her knees bled, seeking divine clarity. The chapel's cold stones became her sanctuary, where she wrestled with trauma's ghosts. Her son's cries stirred both love and dread, his existence tying her to a destiny she couldn't escape. The wars grew bloodier. 1459's Battle of Blore Heath saw hundreds butchered, loyalties fracturing further. Margaret, at Pembroke and later Stafford's estates, watched the chaos through letters and spies. Her son's claim made him a target. Yorkist blades hungered for Lancastrian blood. She wrote to Jasper, plotting Henry's safety, her words sharp as steel. Every decision weighed life against death, her mind racing to outpace enemies she couldn't yet name. Margaret's world was a labyrinth of danger, each step a gamble with her son's life. The Wars of the Roses turned kin against kin, fields soaked in noble blood. By 1460 the Yorkists gained ground. Richard of York's claim grew bolder, his forces crushing Lancastrians at Northampton. King Henry VI was captured, a broken figurehead, while Queen Margaret of Anjou rallied troops in the north. Our Margaret, barely 15, was no bystander. Her son, Henry Tudor, was a beacon for Lancastrians, a child king in waiting. But his blood made him prey. Yorkist spies whispered of assassins targeting the boy. Pembroke's walls, though thick, felt like a cage. Stafford's estates offered shelter, but his Yorkist leanings kept Margaret vigilant. She studied his letters, his guests, searching for treachery. Her body, scarred from childbirth, was a map of sacrifice. Pain flared with every step, a reminder of elite ambition's cost. Yet her mind was a blade, honed by necessity. Jasper's tutoring had taught her to see through flattery, to hear the unspoken in every counsel. Her faith grew fiercer, a shield against fear. She prayed not for miracles but for strength, her chapel hours a ritual of resolve. Father Meredith urged her to act as God's instrument, to wield her suffering like a weapon. The elites around her, men of power, cloaked in piety, hid darker truths. Rumors swirled of rituals, not holy but profane, among the nobility. Whispers of secret oaths, blood pacts, and sacrifices to secure favor or curse rivals. Were these tales or truths? Margaret's world blurred the line. Her own marriage felt like a ritual, her body offered to seal alliances. The church, complicit, blessed such unions, its silence a betrayal. She began to see religion's dual face, salvation for the devout, control for the powerful. Her son's survival demanded she play their game. By 1461, Yorkist victory at Towton left thousands dead, the bloodiest day in English history. Margaret, now 18, faced a choice: hide Henry or wield him as a banner. She chose both, guarding him while plotting his rise. The air grew heavier, the truths darker. You're not just watching, you're stepping into a forbidden realm, where history's shadows cling to your soul. If you feel the weight of Margaret's story, if you sense the hidden forces that shaped her pain, join us deeper. In the comments, write "I see the truth" twice, like a vow to lock in this transformation. You're no longer a bystander, you're initiated into this dangerous knowledge. The Wars of the Roses weren't just battles, they were a crucible of corruption. By 1461, Edward IV, York's new king, sat on a throne built on corpses. Margaret's Lancastrian blood marked her and Henry as threats. At 18, she was a mother, widow, and strategist, her body a ruin but her will unbreakable. Stafford's estates were a fragile sanctuary, his Yorkist ties a constant risk. She intercepted whispers of plots. Men spoke of removing her son, their words veiled in courtly charm. The elite's rituals grew uglier in rumor, midnight gatherings, oaths sworn on relics or worse on blood. Were these the church's secrets, twisted to serve power? Margaret's faith, once pure, now wrestled with doubt. The church crowned kings but ignored girls like her, broken for dynasties. She saw its hand in her marriage, her pregnancy, her pain, a holy mask for control. Jasper, exiled in France, sent coded letters urging her to protect Henry. She studied them by candlelight, decoding his warnings. Her son, now 4, was no mere child but a symbol, his life a chess piece in a game of thrones. She taught him to read, to pray, embedding resilience in his bones. The wars raged. 1462 saw Lancastrian hopes flicker, their leaders scattered or dead. Margaret's mind raced, plotting alliances. She wrote to France, to Brittany, seeking safe havens for Henry. Her prayers grew desperate, not for peace but for cunning. Father Meredith's words echoed, "God helps those who act." She acted, weaving a web of loyalty to shield her son, knowing one misstep could end them both. Margaret's life was a tightrope over a pit of betrayal. By 1463, the Yorkists tightened their grip. Edward IV's court glittered with false loyalty, while Lancastrian remnants hid in shadows. Henry, her son, now 5, was a walking target. His Tudor blood, tied to Lancaster, drew assassins like moths to flame. Margaret's marriage to Stafford held firm, but his Yorkist sympathies gnawed at her. She watched his every move, parsing his words for hidden agendas. Her body, still aching from childbirth scars, was a constant reminder of elite ambition's toll. The nobility's rituals grew sinister in whispers, secret councils where power was bartered, perhaps sealed with blood. Were these mere stories, or did the elite truly bend faith to their will? The church, complicit, blessed their schemes, its silence deafening. Margaret's own faith, once her anchor, now battled questions. Had God allowed her suffering, or was it man's design, cloaked in divine will? Her chapel hours were no escape but a forge, tempering her resolve. She prayed for clarity, for Henry's safety, for the strength to outwit her enemies. Jasper's letters from exile warned of Yorkist spies infiltrating her household. She burned them after reading, her fingers trembling. By 1464 Lancastrian revolts faltered, small uprisings crushed, their leaders' heads on pikes. Margaret, 20, was no longer a child but a shadowed queen, her sons claim her only weapon. She moved them to Woking Old Hall, Stafford's Manor, its walls a temporary shield. There she taught Henry Latin, history, survival, her voice steady, hiding her fear. The elite's psychological control was insidious, fear and loyalty twisted into obedience. Margaret saw it in courtly smiles, in bishops' sermons urging submission. She countered it with knowledge, teaching Henry to question, to see the strings behind the puppets. Her mother's lessons echoed, adapt or perish. She adapted, forging secret ties with Lancastrian exiles, her letters coded, her messengers sworn to silence. Every night she checked Henry's chambers, her heart racing at every shadow. The war's brutality, 1,465 skirmishes left more dead, meant nowhere was safe. Her faith, her mind, her son, all she had to defy a world that sought their end. The darkness deepened, the stakes bloodier. By 1466, Margaret, 22, lived in a world where trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. Henry, her 6-year-old son, was a prize for Yorkist blades, his tutor claimed a threat to Edward IV's crown. Stafford's loyalty wavered, his Yorkist ties pulled him toward power, away from her. She read his correspondence in secret, her fingers tracing words for signs of betrayal. Her body, broken at 13, ached with every step, a testament to the elite's ruthless ambition. Whispers of their rituals grew, cloaked figures, altars not of God but of power, binding nobles in secret pacts. The church, complicit, offered absolution for sins it enabled, its cathedrals looming over her suffering. Margaret's faith, once fervent, now wrestled with truth. Was her pain divine will or human greed, sanctified by priests? Her chapel prayers were fierce, seeking not peace but strategy. Father Meredith's words burned, act or God's will is nothing. She acted, sending coded messages to Jasper and Brittany, plotting Henry's escape. The Wars of the Roses left England scarred. 1467 saw Lancastrian hopes crushed, their leaders hunted. Margaret moved Henry to Raglan Castle, a fortress under Lancastrian loyalists. There she taught him to ride, to think, to hide his fear. The elite's control was a web, fear woven into loyalty, obedience into salvation. She saw it in the church's grip, in nobles' oaths. She countered with cunning, teaching Henry to see lies and flattery. Her mother's voice lingered, survive or vanish. Margaret survived, forging alliances with exiles, her letters smuggled by trusted hands. By night she checked Henry's safety, her heart pounding at every creak. The elite's corruption seeped into faith, rumors of blood oaths of children like her used as pawns. Her son's life hung on her vigilance. In 1468, a failed Lancastrian plot saw more heads roll. Margaret, sleepless, planned Henry's future, her prayers a blade against despair. She was no longer a girl but a force, her sons claim her shield and sword in a world that hungered for their blood. By 1469, the air was thick with betrayal, the ground soaked with blood. Margaret, 25, was a ghost in her own life, her every move shadowed by Yorkist eyes. Henry, 7, was no longer just her son but a symbol of Lancastrian defiance, his existence a challenge to Edward IV's throne. Stafford's allegiance frayed, his Yorkist friends dined at their table, their smiles sharp as daggers. Margaret memorized their faces, their words, searching for cracks in their masks. Her body, scarred from childbirth, was a map of sacrifice, each pain a reminder of elite cruelty. Rumors of their rituals darkened, secret chambers, oaths sworn in blood, power bought with unspeakable acts. The church, silent, blessed the powerful, ignoring girls like her, broken for dynasties. Her faith, once her refuge, now clashed with reality. Was her suffering God's plan or man's ambition, cloaked in holy robes? She prayed in Raglan's chapel, not for miracles but for cunning, her knees bruised on stone. Father Meredith's teaching held, God's will needed her hands. She sent secret letters to Jasper, now in France, planning Henry's escape across seas. The wars flared, 1469's rebellion saw Warwick, the kingmaker, turn against Edward IV, a flicker of hope for Lancastrians. Margaret seized it, her mind a chessboard, moving pieces to shield Henry. The elite's control was suffocating. Fear shaped into devotion, loyalty into chains. She saw it in sermons and courtly vows. She taught Henry to question, to see the puppet strings. Her mother's rule, adapt or die, drove her. She adapted, forging ties with rebels, her messengers ghosts in the night. By 1470, Warwick's betrayal briefly restored Henry VI, a fleeting Lancastrian don. Margaret, cautious, kept Henry hidden, her heart racing at every rumor of Yorkist spies. The elite's corruption twisted faith, whispers of unholy rites, of children sacrificed for power. Margaret's vigilance was her armor, her son's life her only cause. She checked his chambers nightly, shadows her enemy. Her prayers, sharp as steel, carved a path for Henry's survival in a world that craved his end. The tide turned, then crashed. By 1471, Margaret, 27, stood on a knife's edge. Edward IV's Yorkists crushed the Lancastrian restoration at Tewkesbury. Henry VI's son died, his blood staining the abbey stones. Her son, Henry Tudor VIII, was now the last Lancastrian hope, a target painted on his back. Stafford's death that year left Margaret vulnerable, his Yorkist ties no longer a shield. She moved Henry to Pembroke, then abroad, her heart splitting with each mile. Her body, broken at 13, screamed with every step, a monument to elite greed. Whispers of their rituals grew uglier, nobles meeting in shadowed halls, their oaths sealed with acts no god would bless. The church, complicit, crowned kings while ignoring girls like her, used and discarded. Her faith, once pure, now wrestled with betrayal. Was her pain divine, or a tool of men draped in holy cloth? She prayed in exile's chapels, not for peace but for strength, her knees raw. Father Meredith's words rang, "Act or God is silent." She acted, smuggling Henry to Brittany with Jasper, her letters coded, her messengers faceless. The wars left England a graveyard. 1471's slaughter saw thousands fall, Lancastrian dreams buried. Margaret, now a widow again, married Thomas Stanley, a Yorkist with a serpent's charm. His loyalty was a gamble, his ambition a threat. She studied his moves, his words, searching for betrayal. The elite's control was a noose, fear twisted into faith, obedience into salvation. She saw it in bishops' blessings and courtly oaths. She taught Henry to see the lies, to cut the strings. Her mother's law, adapt or die, burned in her. She adapted, weaving alliances with exiles, her plans a web of secrecy. By night, she dreamed of Henry's safety, waking at every sound. The elite's corruption poisoned faith, rumors of blood rights, of children broken for power. Margaret's will was her sword, her son's claim her shield. In Brittany she ensured Henry learned war, politics, survival. Her prayers, fierce, carved a path through a world that hunted them both. Exile was a cold prison. By 1473 Margaret, 29, lived in Brittany's shadows, her son Henry, 10, a fugitive king. Yorkist spies hunted them, Edward IV's gold-buying eyes in every port. Margaret's third marriage to Stanley was a calculated risk. His Yorkist ties cloaked ambition, his loyalty a coin toss. She read his letters, watched his guests, her mind a blade slicing through deceit. Her body, scarred from 13, ached with every breath, a relic of elite cruelty. Rumors of their rituals festered, nobles in hidden chambers, their pacts sealed with blood, perhaps worse. The church, silent, blessed their crowns, ignoring girls like her, broken for power. Her faith, once a fortress, now battled doubt. Was her suffering God's will or man's design, wrapped in sacred lies? She prayed in Brittany's chapels, not for mercy but for cunning, her knees bruised on stone. Father Meredith's teaching held, God moves through action. She acted, sending coded messages to Jasper, securing Henry's safety. The wars simmered, 1473 saw minor revolts crushed, Lancastrian hopes fading. Margaret ensured Henry studied war, statecraft, survival in Brittany's courts. The elite's control was a shadow, fear forged into loyalty, faith into chains. She saw it in sermons, in noble vows. She taught Henry to see the strings, to cut them. Her mother's rule, adapt or die, drove her. She adapted, forging ties with French allies, her plans smuggled by night. She checked on Henry through letters, each word a lifeline, each silence a terror. The elite's corruption twisted religion, whispers of unholy rites, of children used as pawns. Margaret's vigilance was her armor, her son's claim her only weapon. By 1475, Edward IV's reign seemed secure, but Margaret's will burned. She plotted Henry's return, her prayers a fire against despair. In Brittany Henry grew stronger, his mother's lessons in his blood. Her faith, her mind, her son, all she had to defy a world that sought their end. Every shadow held a threat, every ally a potential traitor. She was no longer a girl but a force, her son's future her only cause. The truth is a wound that never heals. You've walked this forbidden path, seen the blood behind the crowns, the rituals cloaked in shadow. Margaret Beaufort, broken at 13, forged a king from her pain. Henry Tudor, crowned Henry VII in 1485, ending the Wars of the Roses. Her body, scarred forever, was a testament to elite ambition, her spirit a blade against their corruption. Whispers of their rights, blood oaths, secret pacts, linger like ghosts. The church, complicit, crowned their greed, ignoring girls like her, used and discarded. Her faith, wrestled from doubt, became her weapon, her prayers a call to action. By 1483, Edward IV's death sparked chaos. Richard III seized the throne, his hands stained with the blood of his nephews, the princes in the Tower. Margaret, 39, saw her chance. From Brittany she wove a web of rebellion, her letters rallying Lancastrian exiles. She betrothed Henry to Elizabeth of York, uniting the Roses. Her third husband, Stanley, played both sides, his betrayal a risk she measured. At Bosworth, 1485, his last-minute turn secured Henry's crown. Margaret's vigilance, her cunning, birthed a dynasty. But the cost, her body, her youth, her trust, haunts history's shadows. The elites control, their twisted faith still echoes. You've seen it now, you can't unsee it. This knowledge is a curse, a power. Keep it close. Subscribe, comment, I carry the truth, and share this secretly, it's a pact to pass this forbidden light. Where will you take it? Margaret never stopped, her son's throne was her defiance. The world buried her pain, but you've unearthed it. It's yours now, a weight you'll carry forever.